Hey, everybody, welcome back to a case of the Mondays. And let me turn that off. Hey, glad to have you with me this evening or whenever you choose to watch this. Opportunity for me to vent, make fun of, whatever. But we're particularly focused on Case of the Mondays on social justice through the lens of politics, economics, media / pop culture, and a little bit of my background is, obviously, particularly as it relates to politics and economics, I've been involved in, and I've shared this previously, but maybe just as a brief introduction for this, for those who watch it, usually, why should I listen to somebody? Why should I give them my time? And I value that. So why should I? What kind of lived experience or education or what have you do I have in these realms? So I've been very passionate about issues related to justice, fairness, equality. And I can credit even some of that to my parents, who, while I went on a very different journey and ended up making some choices or decisions and choosing a different life that I don't know if they would entirely, well, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't entirely agree with or support. But they both passed away now, but they were both very conservative evangelicals. And so lived in that world. And when I left that world, I've obviously embraced different ways of thinking and viewing life. But I will say, those differences aside, my parents definitely did instill in my older brother and I a sense of valuing people. They weren't very environmentally friendly. I don't think that was anywhere on their radar. So that was not an issue that came to my attention. I mean, I remember we would talk about it, recycling, maybe those kind of things, but it wasn't like a passion. But people, particularly my parents were group home managers with a foundation. And so the group home that they managed was for ladies with developmental disabilities. A population, a community that's often just overlooked and dismissed and I never thought of as valuable. My parents instilled me with eyes that say, hey, listen, don't look at what society, politically, pop culture, or, culturally, whatever it might be, however they view people. It's how should we view people? Now, a lot of that was infused with religious doctrine that I've since rejected, but I think there's some things still there in common. And I know if they were both alive, there would be certain aspects of what I've chosen to do with my life since both of them have passed that I think that they would take pride in, because they would see that common denominator of somebody who's committed to seeing that all people are loved and valued and treated fairly and equally and so forth. So throughout my life, mostly in the nonprofit sector, I've certainly been involved in working with communities that have been historically marginalized, mistreated, forgotten. And that taught me something, not only about my own privilege, but also my own responsibility in this world. So I'm 50 years old. You can do that. Plus I had spent most of my life in the nonprofit sector, minus 2 years that I was in the Army. So I like to speak a lot to that issue as far as war and violence, and having seen that up close and personal, being a veteran, tour of duty in Iraq in 2003, whole other story for another time. A lot of lived experience where it feels like my life has intersected with causes, issues, communities that have suffered. I worked with refugees for the better part of a decade, was involved in a lot of advocacy around refugees and other vulnerable immigrant populations, and so forth. I'm a father of a gay daughter, and so being engaged in that issue, a lot of just lived experience. And I've tried to be a fairly avid reader and take in a lot of information over time, but those are some of the things that I've gone through, and I'm sure you've gone through things as well. And that's what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be an opportunity, a live opportunity for me to share in real time without preparation or with minimal preparation. Some thoughts, and for those who eventually join live, to engage with them and hear from you. So, all right, little sidebar. I haven't done a quick opening or introduction to Case of the Mondays in a while, so I'll go ahead and take this time and do that. What do I want to talk about just briefly tonight? I want to talk about two things. And I'll start. It's interesting, as I was saying, though I have chosen to leave. I don't personally adhere to religious doctrines. I'm not a theist. I'm mostly an atheist, sometimes agnostic, sometimes nihilist. I've written on that previously as well. That you can find an article on my blog I did this last year on kind of where I'm at now as of a few months back. But while I don't adhere to doctrine, and I have plenty of criticism about organized religion, particularly of the Christian fold, which is where I come from. I'll let others who are a part of other religious traditions or have left other religious traditions, Islam, Judaism, what have you, Buddhism. I'll let them. They're the folks who know the most. But for me, I'm very much have spent most of my life until about 6 or 7 years ago in the Christian world, mainly the Protestant Christian world. So with that said, it was kind of interesting being a conservative Protestant Christian in America, an evangelical. If anything, we were taught over the years that when it came to Roman Catholics, they were just as much a mission field as, like pagans, indigenous pagan groups in Africa. I mean, that's how it's how absurd it was in terms of like the distance, the antagonism that I was brought, not like in a hostile antagonism, but more of like, oh, we need to win these people to the real Jesus because they're following a false god and so forth. So I digress a little bit, but yes, over the years, of course, I studied theology. Even though it was in Protestant context, I was exposed and learned a lot about theology more broadly within the Christian tradition and the differences. Even though it was a very jaded perspective when I was attending Multnomah Bible College and Western Seminary, two very well-known evangelical academic institutions. It's interesting. One of my closest childhood friends, he grew up in a very strong Catholic house, and his mom and dad worked. I didn't know the dad as much, but the mom I got to know some just going over and visiting. She was actually just a very, very sweet woman, very loving, very devout Catholic. And I know I have family, I have a few friends that are, of the Catholic faith. And so all that to say is I have kind of when I heard today of, Pope Francis, there he is, passing away, I would like to think that I grieve for anybody when they pass, and for those who loved that person and are connected to that person. I try, as a human being, I like to empathize on that level. As I've shared, I was just sharing with my oldest daughter not too long ago that like even people I strongly disagree with, get angry at. I don't believe, contrary to my religious teaching, that anybody is inherently evil or bad. And yet I also know a lot personally, and I've come to understand very deeply the nature of religious trauma, particularly trauma that comes from organized religion, and the damage that has been done by the church. And I know in studying history and the things I've learned over time that, of course, the Catholic Church has a very bloody, violent, intolerant ledger associated with it, of which popes have historically been at the very center of those things that have brought just incalculable pain, suffering, and death on this world. With that said, I have noticed, and by the way, I could easily go and find a dozen things that I do not like about what this particular pope either stood for or enabled, might be the key word. But I will say that on a lot of other, on the surface, on a lot of issues, I also still have to admire and appreciate somebody who, in his realm of influence, which is massive, moved a whole community of humanity a little bit closer towards the just world that I like to think that I'm fighting for. So to that end, I want to be careful. I want to encourage people. And I remember when I was a pastor for many years and I officiated many funerals, the propensity to idolize people after they've passed is a little bit disturbing to me. This is a human being, and we should look at him honestly and fairly and learn and grow from his life. But with that said, the way he drew attention to the genocide in Gaza, not overlooked. I greatly appreciate his voice on that. Things that he has stood for and moved the Catholic Church in the direction of with regards to the LGBTQ community, in spite of the fact that he also has some very unsavory quotes and things that he said in his past about those communities, about that community. So just a quick thought on the poem. I just want to encourage us. Let's make sure that we try to engage system 2 of our brain, for those of you who know the book I'm referencing there, and be able to stand back and look at his life and identify the things that we admire, respect, the things that we disagree with, and see how that moves us forward in a conversation as human beings. I hope people do the same thing about me someday. Obviously, not nearly on the scale of being known like a pope, but in my own world, that people will look at my life and say, okay. I tell my girls that all the time. It's like, listen, I want you, if you turn out exactly like me, something's wrong. Like, I want you to grow up, engage, use your own mind, take the things that you learned from me, the things that you admired, incorporate them into your life however you see fit. And if you don't like certain things that I did or said, and you want to do something else, then do it. Just do it. My encouragement is just do it without a sense of being intimidated or motivated by fear or shame or judgment. Well, that's a little bit about the Pope. And then the other thing I just wanted to focus on is Earth Day. Earth Day Eve to you. Happy Earth Day's Eve to you. Earth Day being tomorrow, April 22nd, 2025. And as I was referencing earlier, I really didn't have very much other than, as a kid growing up in the 80s, they were starting to hear more about like recycling and stuff like that, starting to get like separate trash cans. And but that it was just not nearly on the radar as far as the priority, as far as the level of recognition at a society and at a global level about the issues that are facing us as humanity. But at the same point in time, here in the U.S., it feels like it should be fuck you, Earth Day. That's the way it feels like it should be. I mean, I posted a short not too long ago about President Trump opening up national parks, huge swaths of national parks, to the logging industry. My fiance was sharing and reading a story and sharing with me about one of the marine preserves around the Hawaiian Islands that has like precious preserved nature there, and how they're now taking actions to open it up to the fishing industry. And it just goes on and on and on. As I commented on that short about the trees, I asked the question, is there something with this man is there something that he thinks about that is not viewed from a monetary standpoint? Does he turn everything into dollars and cents? Is I think the way I said it. And it's just very, very, it's very, very somber. I just want to encourage in this video, before I say goodbye, that I want to encourage people to not lose sight of that issue, as there is rightly such a important focus on the members of the trans community, on the rest of the LGBTQ community, on immigrant rights, on human rights, all that. Like, there's so many issues. They truly have done what Steve Bannon once threatened or said is flood the field with attacking just about every issue that you can think of. But I want to encourage people in the midst of that, let's not forget Earth, because while all the issues that directly pertain to us about our rights, equality, fairness, compassion, all of those things are very, very important. We don't exist if it weren't for this Earth that we are wholly dependent upon. So we need to remember and strive to care for it more now than ever, because at least here in the U.S. context, we sure as hell know that our government isn't going to encourage it. So we're just going to have to get involved and do our best to stand with Earth. With that said, this has been a case of the Mondays. I really appreciate anyone who watches this. If you enjoyed it, you got some interesting perspectives from it, go ahead and make sure you like it, and subscribe, and all of those good things. And I'd love to get an opportunity to perhaps talk with you through on a future live stream. That said, everybody have a wonderful evening.